Good evening and welcome to the 2020 Meet the Candidates Forum hosted by the Stuartville Area Chamber of Commerce. I'm Nick Johnson, the 2020 Chamber President, joined by my Vice President, Jared Johnson, who is our timekeeper this evening as well. We are pleased to be coming to you via live stream. We wish this event could be live and in person as usual, but we're taking our necessary precautions to keep everybody safe this evening. And we want to thank Chris Roberts, who's handling that media for this evening so that you can stay informed. We also want to thank our Chamber Board of Directors for volunteering towards logistics. And to our sponsor, Geotech, they are a producer of composite crossarms, and their work can be found locally as well as internationally. They have roughly 350 employees here in Stuartville as well, and so we certainly appreciate them sponsoring tonight's event. Lastly, a thank you to our candidates for mayor for taking the time this evening for us to get to know you both. And so we'll introduce you now, starting with the incumbent, Jimmy John King, and the challenger, Gary Johnson. Thank you both for being here this evening. We'll go over a few of the ground rules for our forum this evening. All questions have been submitted in advance from various members of the community. Typically, we would have an open mic if we had an audience here, but that's why we had the opportunity for those questions to come in advance. You'll each be given 1 minute uninterrupted for each question, as well as extra time to respond to one another when requested. So without further ado, we will get underway, and Mr. King, we'll start with you with question number 1. What skills and or experience qualify you to serve as our mayor?
Well, thank you, Nick, and I'm really glad to be here. Thank the Chamber for putting this on again. Thank Gary for being here, too. I'll tell you, I've been mayor for 12 years now. I've made a lot of connections with state, local, area legislatures, our Olmsted County commissioners, with other members of other communities, other mayors, other city councils. The experiences like that you gain over those years are, I don't know what, you can't put a number on, you can't put a price on. I mean, we've got some close relationships going with a lot of other groups, CETA, Reddy, Smith, other area groups like that. I'm a third generation on the farm, running the family farm. So I've had to deal with people through the years up until this even. With all the business people coming to this community and the other people coming around, we've made some great connections with a lot of different realtors, investors, developers. So that experience gained over the last 12 years is starting to really pay off now.
Thank you. And Mr. Johnson, same question.
Well, a little bit of a prepared statement to start out with, and then I'll give a little bit of my background. But I'm originally from Laverne, a small little town in southwestern Minnesota. I understand the challenges faced by being close to a bigger town. I've been a job creator in Stuartville for over 30 years. I've assisted over 24 businesses become established in Stuartville. This is a time for change for the better in Stuartville. The good old boys network has become stagnant and is harming our residents by not seizing opportunities to expand the tax base, expand opportunities to capture more business and use community assets without regard to what it means for your friends. I have a bachelor's and master's degree from Winona State University. I'm 1 year into a 2-year program, MBA program through Augsburg College. I've had a broker's license in real estate for 41 years. I worked for developers, I worked for builders, and I continue to maintain those, and investors. I continue to maintain those commitments with those people. But anyway.
Mr. King, your response?
Just a quick response to that. In the last 10 years, our tax base has grown by over $100 million, which equates to just a touch over 45%.
And Mr. Johnson?
And the majority of that has come from your downtown businesses and real estate, and the commercial buildings, properties. Some of those anywhere from the past 4 years. Mayor King, you probably know that, 37.5% up 88% for some of the buildings. And I'm a prime example of some of those that have had that increase.
Care to respond?
As we've talked before at Truth and Taxation meetings over the years, some of these increases are not by the city of Stuartville. We don't have the say over the assessed value.
These were just the increases for the city portion.
That
Please
you're gonna
continue.
have to bring down and show me. Oh, get your mask on.
Sorry about that. I do my homework.
Well, gentlemen, we have a lot to cover this evening, and so we'll move on, and we will catch those topics as we move through here. And so, Mr. Johnson, we'll move on to question number 2 for you. How long have you been a legal Stuartville resident before filing for mayor?
Very simple. I meet all legal requirements to run for mayor. And with that particular time that I have left, I guess I'd like to ask the mayor just a few questions in it. Why did you, the city administrator and city clerk, give city-owned property without a public notice, which is required by law, to a person who was charged with 26 counts of fraud and theft? Why did you allow the city clerk to place a fake public hearing notice on the internet with a fake address for the purpose of vacating a city alley, which was a major ingress-egress for the property in question? Why weren't adjacent property owners notified of the vacating, giving away of the above property in question? Isn't it common practice to notify property owners within a certain radius of the property being discussed? Don't you require a public hearing for a fence?
Mr. Johnson,
Why would you go against established policy and city ordinance with something as major as taking away a property's major access? Doesn't seem to pass the smell test, does it, Jimmy John?
Mr. King, we'll let you respond to that as well as answer question number 2 about your residency here in Stuartville.
That question that he's placed at the forefront right now and put in the paper again has been answered time and time again by city attorney and other people. I've been a legal resident for 44 years in this town. My grandson that lives here right now is the 6th generation to call this community their home. I'm from a family of people that do community service. We don't just complain about a community, we do service for it. My father and grandfather probably had a combined total of 50 years on the school board, library boards, other boards and commissions. I've served on every board and commission in this city. I've dealt with all the people that come into the office with their problems. My grandson will grow up in this community as he'll graduate from school just like I did, my father did, my son did, my grandfather did.
We'll move on. Question number 3,
Can I answer that? Reply to that?
if you'd like, 15
I-
seconds.
It's obvious by the length of time that Mayor King has been here that is not necessarily a requirement as far as to become mayor. I mean, I knew your father. Your father was on the school board when I started here. Very nice man, very honest man, very direct. I don't know what happened.
I don't know what happened to you, Gary. What did go wrong with you?
Nothing happened to me, Jimmy John. You know what it is.
Okay.
All right, gentlemen, we're going to move on to question
But we'll
number
get it
3.
out tonight. We will get it out tonight. I think that's what we need to do.
Okay.
Thank you.
We're going to move on. Question number 3. Mr. King, we'll start with you. As a mayor, community service and participation are especially important to our community. How have you participated and volunteered in our Stuartville community?
I've been a member of the Lions. I've worked with every service organization in this community. I've done hundreds of benefit auctions in this community over the years. I've worked with the American Red Cross in this town, every booster club for every sport in this town. Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, whenever they call and need something, we do it for them. The American Legion knows they can call on us anytime they need. I'll be there, do whatever they ask. We've always helped with the Summerfest. I've always helped with the Fall Fest. Been a member of the Chamber now for 12 years. Great service organization doing many things for our community. I've read at the schools for years. Go up there every year and read. Some of the first kids I read to 12 years ago are now graduated a year ago. It's always just a great time when someone calls that we can participate and do the service that they need.
Mr. Johnson, same question.
Well, I had been quite active in the Chamber of Commerce in the earlier days and other organizations in prior years. However, it's not what I've done in the past that counts, but how I can help create new and better opportunities for residents to participate in years to come. So I'm sure that, Jimmy John can say that, what he's done now and this sort of thing, but what did he do prior to even being, mayor 20 years ago? That's the thing. And, the questions that we have here were pretty, to be very honest, they were pretty one-sided. But, I'll leave it at that.
All right, we'll move on to question number 4, and a reminder that all these questions have been submitted by our viewers and people who submit them in advance. And so number 4, we'll start with you, Mr. Johnson. How important are the city and public works staff to Stewartville, and how do you plan on getting along with them and leading them in a positive direction?
Well, I look forward to working with staff and not just public works, but everyone that works for the city. And I will provide clear direction and let everyone know exactly what is expected of them and what they can expect of me. But I will never ask a city employee to perform an illegal act, such as posting a fake public notice on the internet, whether you felt that that was addressed by the city attorney or not, which it never was.
Mr. King, same question.
Well, the way the question's worded, I think Gary should have read it a little closer. He said leading the staff, not being bossing them around and just picking on them and demeaning them in the paper every chance you get. It's hard to work with people when you treat them like that. No, it's good to be friends with your staff, but you can't be friendly with them. We've got a good staff. We've got hundreds of years. You talk city, library, and public works combined service and knowledge to this community. They're just a wealth of knowledge for everyone is in this town, for every council that's ever worked with them, for every mayor that's ever worked with them. They only do what they have to do every day for the city to make it run and make it correct for the people in this community. Now, as far as Mr. Johnson beating this dead horse about this illegal act that supposedly I did, it's pretty hard to get away with it. In a small town like this, any illegal act like he's talking about, that wouldn't be easily picked up by anyone.
Mr. Johnson, would you like to respond?
I would. In 2 years, Jimmy John, I've corresponded, I've written email to you, and not once you have responded to them. Any communication that I have with City Hall at this time, I have to go through the city attorney because you will not give me any financial information on city staff. I've asked, why are we paying $190-some thousand to a city administrator, which is over $60,000 a year more than cities that are paying 2 and 3 times our size. We paid, and nothing against her, we paid, if I could have gotten it, that would have been great, but you're paid a librarian $80,000. We're a town of 6,100 people.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
Your sister.
That's your time.
Was the city, who's the assistant, was paid $75,000.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
4-year RNs don't even get paid that, Jimmy.
Mr. King.
It's pretty amazing that Mr. Johnson has all these numbers when he says we don't give him any numbers. I guess he just makes up whatever number suits him. He puts it wherever he feels like putting it. He's very much incorrect on the city administrator. He's off by tens of thousands of dollars on that. He's more than welcome.
What is it then?
$140,000.
Plus benefits.
No, that's with benefits. If we didn't give you the numbers, how do you know so much?
I had them from Barb Neubauer last year,
I
so I interpolated.
Well, you better keep going to school so you learn this math a little better than what you're doing.
All right, we're going to move on, gentlemen, on to question number 5, and Mr. King, we'll start with you. What will you do to create and sustain a community that embraces diversity and appreciates differences?
What we're trying to do is create a community that's welcoming and encourages everything. We're not talking about just race here. We're talking about gender. We're talking about age. We're talking about your financial situation. We want a community where you can come to live if you need a first-time home that you can afford. If you need an apartment, we're building an apartment building. The manufactured park out there, some people fit there. We want them to fit in our schools. We have a very diverse and good school system in this town. We want everyone to be able to fit in here socially, economically, religious-wise, whatever. Diversity isn't just what some people think it is. It's a whole spectrum of a lot of stuff that's got to fit together. And I think we're doing quite a job with that, welcoming people to our community.
Thank you. And Mr. Johnson, same question.
Well, the first thing would be to elect a new mayor, not tied to existing ways of doing things. Electing a new mayor who embraces diversity of thought. Electing a new mayor who doesn't simply default to accepting the current status quo. Just because that's the way we've done it can no longer be sufficient argument. 2007, I was the first retailer in downtown Stuartville to hire a person of color. I received no endless amount of grief from customers, people who I've known for a long time in downtown as far as business people, and I continue to hire those people. So, I go the one step further. I don't talk about it, I do it.
Mr. King, care to respond?
No.
If not, we'll move on to question 6, starting with you, Mr. Johnson. What do you see as Stuartville's biggest strength currently?
Well, besides the citizens of Stuartville, our proximity to 3 major highways, being 5 minutes from an international airport, our proximity to Rochester and the finest medical facility in the world would be our greatest strengths. But our current mayor and administration have failed to capitalize on these strengths over the past 12 years, and this is evident by the lack of population growth. We've seen less than 3% in the past 10 years compared to double-digit increases by communities surrounding Rochester. Either the current mayor and administration choose not to take advantage of the opportunities to increase the population of Stuartville, or they just had the inability to do so.
Mr. King, same question.
Well, to correct one thing, it's 7% growth. You can go on the state demographer and check that, Gary. Your 3%'s wrong again. I don't know where you come up with these numbers all the time. Now, our biggest strength
I will vote for
is
my
our
3%.
citizens.
Uninterrupted, 1 minute, please.
Our citizens that volunteer in this town, our citizens that run forums in this town, our citizens that spend their time on boards and commissions, spend many hours behind the scenes trying to make this a better community. Without the citizens, there would be no town. Right now, we've got many great citizens on many boards, commissions, service organizations, businessmen up and down Main Street, all paying their taxes, all doing the things they should be doing. It's just a great bunch of people, and that's what makes Stuartville what it is.
Mr. Johnson, care to respond?
No.
We'll move on then to question 7, and we'll start with you, Mr. King. What are the top 2 changes you would like to see for our community, and why?
Well, right now, what I'd really like to see, we have, I guess, I must be misunderstanding Gary somehow here. We got 6 builder developers going right now. We have 5 other ones we're in discussions with. What I'd like to see is some more senior type housing. I don't mean senior citizen homes and stuff, but patio homes, duplexes and stuff. So our senior community can move into them, sell their homes to the first home buyers that can't afford to buy in Rochester because of the price of homes in Rochester. That would make a great, great plan because our homes sell within a day or 2 when they're listed right now. The other thing I'd like to see done that people have wanted for several years, a great portion of this community, and it may not seem like much to some, but they'd like to see 15th Avenue get blacktopped. 15th Avenue seems to be bothering a lot of people for a lot of years. We've been in communication with the county and the state on that. We've been close several times. We're trying to complete that. We'd like to get it done.
Thank you, Mr. King. And Mr. Johnson, same question.
Well, first and foremost would be a new administration that has the will and ability to unleash Stuartville's assets. It's evident that the current administration has failed over the past 12 years to do so. With the new administration would come financial transparency. That's a biggie in this community. The current administration's lack of transparency is legendary and would end the day I am elected mayor. And I just ask, what are they hiding and why? Why won't financial information be released? I've been asking for some time, just even for overtime hours from, public service, just to find out and get some background, but I cannot get any of this information.
Mr. King, care to respond?
Anyone that wants can come down. We'll open the books to them. You can come down to City Hall and sit there. We'll open the books to you. We've never told you we wouldn't.
Jimmy John, you won't even answer an email of mine.
Well,
I can show you 2 years of emails that I've sent to you that you've not answered one. Why is that?
I believe-
Am I not equal to the rest of the citizens of Stuartville taxpayers?
I'm
I've
not-
paid over $1 million in property taxes in 30 years, more than you have, invested in downtown, two blocks of downtown.
Mr. Johnson, the transparency part also continues on those emails, and there's many, many emails I've received at 2 and 3 in the morning that I don't think some people would like released, but anytime.
Some people work until then.
Yeah, they do. But anyhow, you need to know that transparency also covers anything that passes through there. I'm not an email person. Anybody that's ever tried to email me knows that.
You should get into the 21st century then, Mayor. You really need to do that.
You need to come down and talk to me face to face. That's
I
all
have
gotta do.
tried to talk to you face to face, young man, and you will not do it.
Well, thank you for the young man part.
Well, you are 5 years younger than I am, so there you go.
All right, gentlemen, we're going to move on. Question number 8, and Mr. Johnson, we'll start with you for this one. What do you propose promoting and/or using existing business properties in Stewartville that are currently empty?
Well, it would take longer than a minute, trust me. The current administration has had 12 years to make a difference on Main Street, and it has failed immensely. The current mayor has shown us time and time again that he doesn't have the ability, let alone the expertise, to tackle such a complex problem as Main Street vacancies. I possess that needed skill. I have, I said I've been in real estate for 41 years. I've worked with developers. I had 2 blocks of downtown Main Street until a situation that happened in 2010. We won't go there. And we could talk about the Gary Johnson prior to you being mayor and the Gary Johnson after you being mayor. But again, that would take longer than we have this evening. So we have our differences, and we'll continue to have our differences. But Main Street is on life support, and that was even before COVID.
Mr. King, same question.
Well, right now, after 12 years, there's only one area of Main Street that's on life support. The rest of it's doing quite well. And he's right, it'll take more than a minute to list all the businesses or new businesses or remodel businesses on Main Street. The EA and the council has worked on programs over the years. We've had a downtown redevelopment program that gives you up to $25,000 for a loan for prep and demolition. We have pay-as-you-go tax increment financing. We have partnerships with Ready, CETA, USDA, State of Minnesota. We're always open to helping any business with any question they have. Highway 63 beautification program, $5,000 match for exterior beautification. Mr. Johnson used some of these programs over the years. Business incubation program, which is a great program. Nick knows about it. It's been used by several. That's to help rent out some of these spots if the landlords can get an agreement with a rental price so people can rent them decent. We have a revolving loan fund. Right now we have 5 loans out totaling $117,693 to businesses in this town. We've got a 0 startup loan for small businesses, 0% up to $15,000.
Thank you, Mr. King. That's your time. And you both want a little extra time here, and so Mr. Johnson, go ahead with the response.
Well, the programs are all well and done if the people use them. The situation is with a lot of the grant programs as matching grants, and those people don't even have that money to match. Therein is the situation. When I become mayor, what I would do is I would establish a grant program. But hey, you know what? Let's redo our Main Street. If your Main Street does not have an identity, you don't have a Main Street. Plain and simple as that. But you need to, the council has to cut out more and assist these businesses. Just because they happen to have a piece of property on Main Street doesn't mean that they're wealthy.
Mr. King, a response?
Well, we've most of these programs have worked quite well for us. We've had quite a few take advantage of it. Matter of fact, our CARES Act dollars, we just did that one. We're still doing it. We did 11 grants for $5,000, now 14 more. No strings attached. The only difference is on any of these grants, there's 14 more for another 70,000 coming in there. We had a cleaning and safety supply program. Any of these programs we talk about, the only thing you gotta do to take advantage of it is to pay your taxes and not owe the city any money for sewer, water, or anything like that. They're very basic, easy to use programs.
And we'll move on. Question number 9. Starting with Mr. King again, do you think that our main street in downtown is healthy and successful? And if not, what would you do to change that? If yes, tell us why.
Well, I think it's doing quite well, just from 6 to 6. You got the redevelopment of the former cottage cabin, Olson Homestead old building, Podine's Power and Equipment Addition expansions, former Casey Refab remodel, the new River Dental Clinic, new fire station, House Chevrolet refab remodel, All American Co-op Addition expansion, Flowers and More in Mr. Johnson's building, Old River Antique Mall. You got the corner of the professional building, been remodeled and refurbed. City center businesses continue to flourish right here. Tag and Paper building's been sold, remodeled, and up and going again. Corner Hotel's in a refurb process. New Hunan Restaurant, Ace Hardware Store. We've got the White Bevel Spa and Chiropractic. Former Star Building, now Pearson Building's been refurbed, remodeled into a beautiful building. A+ Nails, State Farm Office remodel. Dull Copier remodels, new chamber offices. American Family, Course and Law Office. Force, Safe Self-Defense School. New ownership of Catch My Thrift. Janice Country Pets and Grooming. New Alliance Credit Union. Hy-Vee Pharmacy. New Heritage House refurb. New Nagel Heating and Air Conditioning building. South Quick Trip remodeling. That's just between 6 and 6. I could go on the rest of it.
Thank you. Mr. Johnson, same question.
That's all well and done, but our main street is still on life support. I don't know if you talk to these people or not. Catch My Thrift, Betty is just leaving. She talked to me considerably a long time. She's going down to Racine now. As far as the other properties and the old hotel and that sort of thing, it gets back to the high property taxes. You talk about affordable rents. These properties can't afford to, let alone cash flow with the property tax increases that we have. 37, 88%, except for a couple of your buddies on Main Street, which have had less than a 4% increase. But I don't know how that came about. But the rest of these people have seen Ace Hardware over 40-some%. You can see the list right over there. So that is something that you need to look at. We can go through and see all these cosmetic things that have been done on Main Street, but bottom line is, are they surviving? Are they existing? Or are they actually making a living?
Mr. King, time to respond.
The ones I talked to when I was up and down Main Street were all feeling like they were doing quite well. They were happy with programs. They were happy with the assistance the city's been given. They're happy with the business, the citizens, the actual citizens that live in this town, that make this their community, the business they do with them. Not the ones that go, just come here once in a while, go back to Rochester and live, but the ones that live here. They've been quite happy.
Mr. Johnson, care to respond?
Well, a lot of people, they talk to me and say, why don't you put up a fast food restaurant or something like this? Of course, when you figure out that, 85% of your workforce is leaving between 6:30 and 7 o'clock in the morning, doesn't come back till 5:30, 6 o'clock at night, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to realize, hey, it's not going to work. Tarsilas is, they're having their issues. The other, businesses as far as, Hunan, that sort of thing, they're hanging on. I think there was, you even mentioned at a city council meeting how it was a derogatory comment about Oliver Regal's business, the quesadilla stand, that these businesses are coming into town and taking business away.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
We have no Mexican restaurants.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
We have no Mexican restaurants. It doesn't compete.
Mr. King, anything to add?
No.
All right, we'll move on to our final question of the evening, and Mr. Johnson, you'll go first here. This is a question about a future of this community and your vision for helping our community transform itself as we move into the year 2030.
Well, first and foremost, I would embrace transforming Stuartville, and transformation begins with changing mayors. The place where business as usual has ruled and failed to take advantage of transformative opportunities. We don't know what opportunities will come our way. Said, but the city needs to be open to them, not evaluate how it keeps the old system in place.
And Mr. King, your vision for transforming our community through the year 2030.
Well, we're going to have to get with the program, as Mr. Johnson said. Things are changing fast. But it doesn't help when you have people don't even want to build a home in this community, just want to come and try and run a community they don't even live in. But we've got to embrace what's coming our way. And what's coming our way is a new way of doing business, because after this virus is over with, things will be different. We need to embrace it. We don't need to fight about it. We need to be innovative. We need to get on board with what's coming if we want our children to have a viable community in the future. We need to be proactive, not reactive, not after the fact, after you've promised to do something with your property, after you've promised many things and never came through with them. We need to be a little more proactive and not so reactive on this.
Thank you, Mr. King. Mr. Johnson, care to respond?
Well, I'm sure some of that was directed toward me, but I'm not going to give him the benefit of responding to that. As far as Stuartville, so what we're looking at is the retail end of Stuartville is going to be limited. We have to really look at service-oriented. And, you know, the communities, whether it's Lanesboro or Decorah, Iowa, or Spring Valley, where the businesses that they have down there, you know, they're a destination spot. We need to figure out something that can make us literally a stop-off to go off of what those people have done already.
Mr. King?
I just want to finish up by saying I want to thank all the great citizens of this community that do pay their taxes, that do live in this community, and do want to be a vital part of it. I really appreciate it, and I'm glad that they're watching tonight.
Mr. Johnson, any closing statements?
Along with that, and I would like to specifically thank Gwen for changing the protocol as far as tonight with the COVID situation. I do have a compromised system, and I just appreciate you adjusting that so that I could be a little bit safer here. Thank you.
All right, that is our time. And so, gentlemen, thank you again for joining us tonight for this forum. And for those of you watching home, thank you for tuning in this evening into our live stream. Obviously, we had to make adjustments this year with the coronavirus, and we appreciate you trying to stay informed about the decisions that will impact our community for years to come. Some special thank yous, not only to the candidates, but also to Chris Roberts for running the audio and visual you've seen tonight, for Jared for keeping time, for Megan Romans, Alicia Nelson, for checking people into the door and making sure they're healthy enough to be here this evening in this new world that we're dealing with. And then Gwen Ravenhorst, as Gary said, Myrna Welter as well, our two chamber employees, for all the work they did leading up to this evening's event as well. Finally, a major thank you to Geotech for their sponsorship, which allowed us to be able to produce the audio and video for tonight. They are a staple in our community, and we appreciate their assistance. So again, thank you for watching, and have a good night.